Hi, I'm Daniel, and I teach kids to code here at Coder Prodigy. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to program a little game, and after this video, you will learn some techniques that you can apply to your own games in Scratch. So here's how this game that we're going to program in this video will look like. So on the screen, we have a backdrop, which will look like a forest or a swamp. And here we have Marcus, the flying hippopotamus. Now, when we click the green flag, Marcus will start flying around. And after we click the left or right arrow keys, Marcus will go left or right. And if we press the up and down arrow keys, we can move Marcus up and down on the screen. Now, besides that, Marcus can shoot basketballs in the air if we press the space bar. And Marcus will shoot some basketballs that will look like this, and the basketballs will fall to the ground naturally, like they do in real life. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to use variables to create flying objects and that fall to the ground naturally. And you can apply these techniques to your own games in Scratch. So in order to create this game, we need to go to the Scratch website, scratch.mit.edu. This is where we will store all our projects in Scratch. Now, if we don't have a Scratch account, I recommend that you pause the video and create an account now. It shouldn't take too long, and if you need any help, ask for a parent or an adult's help. Now, after you create your account, you need to go here where it says My Stuff. This is the small folder icon here. And click here, and this will be the place where you store all the projects that you are going to create. And I have a lot of here, and I teach kids to code with some of the projects here. And you need to create a new project by clicking this button here where it says New Project. And after you click that button, you'll get an empty Scratch project with the standard sprite that looks like a cat. And we're going to remove this cat, and we're going to add our own sprites. But first, let's go click on the backdrop here, which should be automatically selected. And you are going to click this icon here to choose a new backdrop. So we need to pick that backdrop, which looks like a swamp, and we're going to click here. And in the search bar, I'm going to type in swamp or wetland. And this will be the backdrop that we're going to use for this video. So click here, and now you have the backdrop that I showed you earlier. Okay, now we don't need to do anything else with the backdrop. The backdrop is not programmed at this video. Now we need to add two sprites for this project. We need to add Marcus the hippo, and we need to add the basketball. So go click here where you have the cat icon and choose a new sprite, which you can find in the Scratch homepage. And here, just type in Hippo, and you have the sprite Hippo 1. This is the flying hippo that I showed you earlier. So click here, and here you have Marcus the hippo. And in the name for the sprite, I'm going to type in Marcus, because that's how I named this character. You can name your character however you want. And we need to add another sprite which looks like a basketball. So click on the cat icon again, and in the search bar, you can type in basketball, or you can simply click on this basketball sprite that you can see here on screen. All right, so you have two sprites in this project, and this is all we need. Now, we're going to start by programming Marcus to fly around. Right now, Marcus doesn't really do anything, so we need to program him. So make sure you go to Events here and add a script starting with when flag clicked. So we need to start programming Marcus when we click the green flag. And when we click the green flag, I want Marcus to flap his wings all the time. And so we need to go to the control section and add a forever loop. You probably remember what the forever loop does. The forever loop simply repeats whatever you put inside the loop. So the computer will repeat whatever you put inside the forever loop forever. That's why it's called a forever loop. So snap it here after when flag clicked, and after the flag is clicked, the computer will run these blocks forever. And I want to go to the costume section to show you what kind of visual Marcus looks like. And Marcus has two costumes here. And if we cycle between these two costumes, if we make the computer cycle between these two costumes, this will give us the impression that Marcus is flying. So I'm going to go to the looks section, and I'm going to put in next costume inside the forever loop. And after you put in next costume, you can click the flag, and notice that Marcus is flying around, but Marcus is flapping his wings a little bit too fast for my liking. If you like it that way, you can keep it like that, but I'm going to go to control and I'm going to add a little bit of wait time between the next costume and the end of the forever loop. And I'm going to wait 0.1 seconds. So a short amount of time, but this will give us the impression that Marcus is flying around more slowly. So something like this. Alright, so Marcus already has the impression of flying, but we need to control Marcus with our arrow keys on our keyboard. So when we press the up and down arrow keys, we're going to simply move Marcus up and down. But if we press left and right, we want Marcus to keep going left or right. So we're going to program these two directions differently. So here's how I'm going to do this. First, I'm going to go to events and I'm going to drag this block when a key is pressed, and I'm going to select the up arrow. So when up arrow is pressed, I want Marcus to move upwards a little bit. And I'm going to go to motion, the blue section, and I'm going to drag in this block, change Y by. The Y value here is the vertical position on the screen from Marcus. So a low value for Y means that Marcus will be lower on the screen. A higher value for Y means that Marcus will be higher on the screen. So we want, if we press the up arrow key, to increase the vertical position of Marcus on the screen. So we need to change Y by an amount. For example, change Y by 10 or by 5. All right, so this is how you are going to do this. And if you click the green flag now, and if you press the up arrow key, notice that Marcus will simply move upwards. All right, but we also need to be able to move Marcus downwards. And so we will duplicate this script. So I'm going to go to events and I'm going to drag another block with when a key is pressed. And this time I'm going to select down arrow. And this time I'm going to change Y by a different amount. So I'm going to go to the blue motion section and drag the change Y by, and instead of 10, I'm going to put negative 10. A negative value means that we're going to decrease the Y value. And as I said earlier, a smaller value for Y means that Marcus will be down on the screen. So if we click the flag now and we've pressed the up arrow key, notice that Marcus moves up. And if I press the down arrow key, he moves downwards. All right, so this is the up and down movement for Marcus. Now we need to implement or program the left and right movement for Marcus. Now this will be implemented with a small variable. A variable is, you probably know this, but if you don't, a variable is a piece of information that the computer remembers. And depending on that piece of information, we can program our sprites to do different things. So let me give an example. For Marcus, I'm going to go to the orange variables section, and I'm going to make a new variable. And I'm going to name this Marcus's speed. So this will be the value of speed for Marcus. A higher speed means that Marcus will move faster, and a lower value for speed means that Marcus will move slower. And this is under my control. I am the programmer, so I get to decide what value this variable will have. So make sure you click for all sprites here and then click OK. Now, the value for Marcus's speed, you probably see this in the top left corner of your stage here. Marcus's speed has the value 0. But we're going to change the value of this variable, and then we're going to move Marcus depending on the value of this variable. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's say that I'm going to add a new script. So I'm going to go to the yellow events section, and I'm going to drag when flag clicked. And I'm going to go to the variable section, and at the beginning, I'm going to set Marcus's speed to the value 0. So Marcus will stay in his place. And then in a forever loop, I'm going to go to the light orange control section, and I'm going to bring in the forever loop here. I'm going to drag it below, and I'm going to move Marcus on the horizontal position. So I'm going to change his X coordinate. This is the programmatic terminology here, the programmatic term. I'm going to change Marcus's horizontal position left or right depending on the value of this speed. So I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to bring in the change X by, and I'm going to drag this block inside the forever loop. And if we change X by 10, means that Marcus's value for X will change by 10. That means the value x for Marcus will increase. Now, you might know this already, but just in case you don't, the x coordinate, the x value for every sprite, will decide if the sprite is to the left or to the right side of the screen. And the y value decides if the sprite is to the up side of the screen or to the down side of the screen. So if I zoom in a little bit to the stage here, let's say that Marcus is at this x value, x55. If I increase that, if I make it 70, for example, which is bigger than 55, notice that Marcus will move to the right. And if I lower that to 30, the x position of Marcus will be to the left. And if I decrease it further, Marcus will move to the left side of the stage. And same for the y coordinate, except y decides whether it's up or down with respect to the center of the stage. So I hope this makes sense. So if we change x by 10, that means we're moving Marcus to the right. And now, if I click the flag, this forever loop will repeat change x by 10. And so Marcus will move very fast towards the right side of the stage. So if I hit the flag, notice that Marcus flies to the right. Now, we want to change x not by a fixed amount, by 10, but by whatever the value of Marcus's speed is going to be. And I'm going to click on the variable section, and I'm going to drag in this rounded Marcus's speed block. So whatever the speed of Marcus is going to be, that's how Marcus will move on the stage. So right now, if I click the flag, Marcus will not move anywhere because the value of Marcus's speed is 0. So the x value here doesn't change by anything. But if I set Marcus's speed to, let's say, 2 or a different value, Marcus will start moving to the right. And if Marcus's speed is 10, as we made it earlier, Marcus would move faster. So this is how a variable is going to work if the variable is used to change the position of a sprite on the screen. So we are going to program Marcus to change his value of Marcus's speed depending on which key we press on our keyboard. So I'm going to initialize Marcus's speed to 0, and if we press the left arrow key, we're going to set Marcus's speed to a value. If we press the right arrow key, we're going to set Marcus's speed to a different value. And forever, the computer will always change x, that is, the computer will move Marcus horizontally, depending on whatever the value of that variable is at that moment. So I'm going to go to the yellow event section, and I'm going to drag when a key is pressed. And instead of space, I'm going to use the right arrow key. And if the right arrow key is pressed, I'm going to set Marcus's speed to a positive value. So I'm going to drag in this orange set block. So I'm going to set Marcus's speed to, let's say, 5. All right. So when the right arrow key is pressed, at that moment, the value of Marcus's speed will change to 5. And because this forever loop is always executed by the computer will pick up the new value for Marcus's speed. And so the computer will start moving Marcus to the right. All right, so let's click the flag over here. And at this moment, Marcus's speed is 0, as you can see from the top left side of your stage. And if I hit the right arrow key, Marcus's speed is 5, and Marcus will start moving to the right. That is because the forever loop never stops. Now, we're going to add a very similar script when the left arrow key is pressed. So I'm going to go to the yellow event section, and I'm going to drag this when key is pressed. I'm going to select the left arrow key. And here I'm going to set Marcus's speed to a different value. So I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to drag in this set block, and I'm going to set Marcus's speed to -5. -5 means that the computer will start moving Marcus to the left. So let me hit the flag. And now Marcus is staying in his place because Marcus's speed is 0. And if I hit the left arrow key, notice that Marcus starts to move to the left. And if I hit the right arrow key, the speed has changed. And Marcus will move either left or right, depending on which key I'm pressing. Because Marcus's speed, the variable, changes depending on my actions. So this is how we can program a sprite to move differently depending on which keys we're pressing. Now, I don't really like that Marcus is moving backwards if he's moving to the left. I would like Marcus to turn and point to the left. And so I'm going to click on Marcus, and then I'm going to go to this direction space over here, and I'm going to click on it, and very importantly, I'm going to click on this button over here with these two triangles. The two triangles say that if Marcus is pointing to the left, he will not have his head upside down. This is what that button will say. So make sure you click this middle button, which has these two little triangles over here. This is the rotation style of a sprite. Now, when we are pressing the right arrow key, we want Marcus to point to the right, because he's moving to the right. And when we're pressing the left arrow key, we want Marcus to point to the left, not move backwards. So I'm going to make a little space here, and I'm going to go to the blue motion section, and I'm going to drag this block that says point in direction 90. 90 is a value that is measured in degrees. We're going to talk about degrees in another video, but 90 degrees means moving to the right. And when you click on 90, the Scratch website already shows you what this direction actually means. Now I'm going to drag a very similar block, so I'm going to bring in point in direction, but instead of 90, I'm going to drag this small slider over here and make it point to the left. And this is point in direction -90. The number is not that important. The important thing is that we move Marcus to the left. So we make Marcus point to the left if he's moving to the left. Now let's go click the flag, and now Marcus is moving to the left, and he's switching his direction if we're pressing the left and right arrow keys. So this is really, really cool. Besides moving up and down, now Marcus can move left or right depending on our keys. This is awesome. So we've programmed Marcus in this video. Now, we're also going to program the basketball because we want the basketball to shoot when we press the space bar. And this is what we're going to do now. So make sure you select the basketball here, and we're going to start programming the basketball by first hiding it from the stage, because if you saw earlier, the basketball is not present at the beginning of the game. It's only present when we hit the space bar. And I'm going to show you how to program that. So I'm going to go to events and drag in the when flag clicked block, and I'm going to zoom a little bit so that you can see what I'm coding here. So when flag clicked, I'm going to go to the purple look section, and I'm going to scroll down and bring in the hide block. So I'm going to hide the basketball from view. So right now, if I click the flag, the basketball is nowhere to be seen. All right, this is what we want. Now, if I hit the space bar, I want the basketball to appear on the stage right where Marcus is. But if I hit the space bar again, I want another basketball to arise. So we want multiple basketballs to be able to be present on the screen at the same time. And so we will use clones for this effect. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the yellow event section, and I'm going to drag this block when space is pressed. So when the space is pressed, I'm going to create a clone of this sprite. Now you may or may not know what clones are, but they're basically duplicates of the same sprite on the screen. So I'm going to go to the light orange control section, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to drag this block, create clone of myself. All right, so the basketball will create a clone of itself, so there are going to be 2 basketballs on the screen. If I press space, there are going to be 3 basketballs on the screen, and so on. Now, because the original sprite, the basketball, is hidden, also the clones will be hidden. Now, we can program these clones independently with the script that starts when I start as a clone. So every clone, when it's created on the screen, will be programmed according to this script when I start as a clone. So the computer will run this script for every clone that gets created on the screen. And first, I'm going to start showing the clones, and I'm going to move them to wherever Marcus is positioned on the screen. So I'm going to go to the purple look section, and I'm going to drag this show block. So whenever a clone is created, it's going to be visible on the screen, unlike the original sprite, and this clone will need to move to where Marcus is. So I'm going to go to the blue motion section, and I'm going to drag this go to block. So go to, and I'm going to snap it here, and instead of random position, I'm going to click on Marcus. So whenever a clone is created, it will go to wherever Marcus is at that moment. So let me go hit the flag, and let's see what we've programmed so far. So Marcus is flying on the screen, and if I hit the space bar, notice that basketballs simply appear wherever Marcus is at that moment. But basketballs don't really do anything. Now, all we need to do for this video is to program that falling effect for this basketball. And this will be the most difficult, but it's also going to be the most rewarding, because we're going to implement an effect that happens in real life. And you can also program this effect to your own games when you create them, all right? So if you want to create a shooting game where you have basketballs or bullets or other kinds of things that fall to the ground, you can take this technique and program your games as well. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use variables for this effect. So I'm going to make sure that the basketball is selected, and I'm going to go to the orange variables section, and I'm going to make a new variable, and I'm going to name this vertical speed. And I'm going to show you or explain what this vertical speed does, and make sure you click for this sprite only before you click OK. So make sure this is the checkbox that's checked. All right, now the vertical speed starts at 0, but here's what I want to show you. I'm going to show the original basketball for a moment. First, I'm going to make the vertical speed. I'm going to drag this block in open space, and instead of setting the Marcus's speed, I'm going to set the vertical speed. I'm going to give a value of 10, for example. Now, in the open space, I'm going to go to motion, the blue section, and I'm going to drag this change y by a given value. Now, as I mentioned earlier, change y will move this sprite vertically, but instead of 10, like we did with Marcus, I'm going to change y by the value of vertical speed. So I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to drag this vertical speed inside the space here. Now, after that, I'm going to change the vertical speed by -1. So I'm going to decrease vertical speed. So I'm going to drag in this change block, and instead of Marcus's speed, I'm going to change the vertical speed. And in the space where it says 1, I'm going to type in -1. Now, I want you to be very, very, very careful about what's going to happen on the screen if I click these two blocks. So if I click one of them, both will be evaluated or executed by the computer. So change y by vertical speed, and right after that, the vertical speed will decrease by 1. But first, let me go set the vertical speed to 10. So I'm going to click this block, and notice that here on the upper left side of the screen, you have vertical speed 10. Now, I'm going to click this block, and notice that the basketball has moved upwards. It's moved by 10 positions because that's what the value of vertical speed was. But after that, vertical speed became 9. So if I click this block again, the basketball will move by just 9 positions upwards, and vertical speed has decreased to 8. And if I repeat this, this will move by 8 positions, and then 7 positions, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then nothing. And the basketball will remain in the air, and after I click this block again, change y by 0 will not happen anything to the basketball, but vertical speed will start to become negative, and so the basketball will start falling to the ground. That's because the basketball will stay here, and then the vertical speed will become -1. And so if we change y by -1, we'll start to decrease its vertical position. And so the basketball will start to go a little lower. So by 1 position lower, then by 2, then by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. And so the basketball will start falling to the ground if we repeat these two blocks over and over. So if we make the computer repeat these two blocks, then we'll have the effect of falling to the ground. So I'm going to wrap these two blocks in a repeat loop. So I'm going to go to the light orange control section, and I'm going to drag this repeat until. And I'm going to wrap these two in a repeat loop, and I'm going to repeat until I'm touching the edge of the stage. So I'm going to go to this light blue sensing section, and I'm going to drag the first diamond-shaped block that says touching, and here I'm going to select edge. So until the basketball is touching the edge of the screen, the basketball will change y by the current value of vertical speed, and then the vertical speed will decrease by 1. So here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to drag this repeat block just underneath set vertical speed by 10. And at this moment, if I click this section over here, all of them will be executed. So first, the vertical speed will be set to 10, and the computer will repeat these two blocks, that is, repeat the falling effect, until the basketball is touching the edge of the screen. So if I click this, notice what's happening to the basketball. So it just fell to the ground. So if I drag this basketball somewhere in midair and I click this section again, notice that the basketball jumps a little bit and then starts falling to the ground until it touches the edge. All right, so this is what we are going to do to the basketball clones when they appear on the screen. And for the effect, I'm going to set the vertical speed to a little larger amount, like 15, and then this whole section I'm going to drag right underneath go to Marcus. All right, so when a new clone appears, it will be visible on the screen. It will go to wherever Marcus is on the screen. The vertical speed will be set to 15, and then the basketball will start jumping and then falling to the ground. Let's see what we have here. So I'm going to click the flag, and the original basketball sprite does not appear on the screen anymore, and Marcus is flying around. And if I hit space, then a new clone will be created, and look at the effect. All right, so Marcus shoots these vertical basketballs here. All of them fall to the ground. All right, so this is super interesting. We're shooting basketballs that fall naturally to the ground. Now, I would like these basketballs to follow Marcus. So if Marcus is moving to the left, these basketballs should shoot to the left and have this little throw effect, like it's throwing to the left and then falling to the ground. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create yet another variable that will say in which direction the basketball will go. So I'm going to go to variables here, and I'm going to make another variable for this sprite only, so make sure this checkbox is checked. And I'm going to name this horizontal speed. Like we had a vertical speed, now we're going to have a horizontal speed. And at the beginning, the horizontal speed will be the value of Marcus's speed at that moment. So I'm going to drag the set block, and I'm going to drag it right above the other orange block. And I'm going to set horizontal speed instead of 0, and I'm going to set that to whatever the value of Marcus's speed was, right? So I'm going to drag the orange Marcus's speed and place it in the space for 0. All right, now there's one more thing that we need to do. We need to be able to use this horizontal speed inside the repeat loop so that the computer can move this basketball horizontally as well. So I'm going to go to the blue motion section, and I'm going to drag this change x by. And I'm going to place it at the beginning of the loop, not above it, inside the repeat loop at the beginning. And so I'm going to have change x by 10, and instead of 10, I'm going to drag the horizontal speed. So I'm going to go to variables and drag this rounded horizontal speed and place it inside. All right, and after repeat until touching edge, after this thing completes, then it means that the basketball has touched the edge of the stage. And I want to remove this clone altogether to make it disappear from the screen. And so at the end of this loop, I'm going to go to Control, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to drag this last block, delete this clone. And at this moment, we're done. So here's how the effect is going to look like. I'm going to click the flag, and Marcus will be flying around. And if I hit the space bar, notice how the basketballs are going to shoot. So look at that. The basketball shoots in the direction where Marcus is flying. So Marcus is basically throwing basketballs in the direction that he's flying. So if Marcus changes his direction, then so will the direction of the throw where you have these basketballs going. So now you have a little game in which your character, Marcus, is shooting basketballs, and when they touch the edge of the stage, they disappear. Now you can enhance this game, you can improve it by adding some basketball hoops or have another character play catch or something like that. And you can take this technique that you learned here with the variables and implement your own gravity and falling effects in your own games. Now, I will add a link to the project that we created in this video, and I'm going to share it with you so that you can remix this project and do whatever you like with it, improve it, or make your own games out of it. Now, I'm Daniel for Coder Prodigy, and I teach kids to code like this in Scratch and other programming languages. Until next time, thank you for watching the video.